used to laugh, and when he laughed, he used to cry. I think mostly that. Interested in the same things, of course, but, I mean, what is it? It's impossible to tell.
Judi Dench turned 90 in 2024, but she refuses to stop. She can't read scripts anymore and needs someone to describe where the lines are on the page. Yet she still shows up to film sets, paints on Tuesdays, and is writing a book about every role she's ever played. In 2012, doctors told her she was losing her vision. By 2022, she admitted she couldn't see on set at all. So, how does she keep acting? And why did she once paint Harvey Weinstein's name on her backside? The truth is stranger than anything she's played on screen. Judi Dench was born on December 9, 1934, in the quiet town of Heworth in York. She came into the world with no sign that her bloodline carried a royal twist. But nearly 9 decades later, a BBC documentary would reveal that she was directly descended from Klaus Biel, a Danish nobleman who lived in the 1500s. This meant Judi was distantly related to Tycho Brahe, the Renaissance astronomer who changed how people understood the stars. Her father, Reginald Dench, was already remarkable. He had served in World War I, survived the horror of trench warfare, and earned the Military Cross twice. After the war, he studied medicine in Dublin, where he met Eleonora, Judi's mother. Their daughter would go on to mix bloodlines of science, nobility, and performance, though no one could have guessed it then. By 1939, Judi was just 5 years old when her father became the doctor for the York Theatre Royal. That role brought the world of acting right into her childhood. She'd trail behind him backstage, witnessing panicked actors, broken props, and the strange energy that builds before a show begins. During one air raid in 1940, the theater went dark mid-performance. Sirens howled, adults froze, and the building shook in silence. Little Judi, just 6, started singing an old folk song to calm the room. Her voice filled the space until the all-clear rang out. Her dad later said the actors never forgot it. Their house became a place where scripts were read over tea and actors rehearsed in the living room. Without even realizing it, Judi was learning how to act before she learned how to spell. At age 7, she stepped into her first stage role in the York Mystery Plays, a local tradition going back to the 1300s. Judi played a shepherd boy in a nativity scene set under open skies. German planes were flying overhead, searchlights sweeping the clouds. Instead of sticking to her lines, she began talking about how the Star of Bethlehem looked like those searchlights. The crowd gasped, then clapped. Her words somehow made sense of the war around them. Her mother, who handled costumes, was mortified. But everyone else was amazed. Judi had just turned a religious pageant into something that actually spoke to the times. When she was 9, she joined Mount School, a Quaker-run boarding school known for its strict rules and quiet discipline. Her accent made her stand out, and not in a good way. Other girls mocked her voice, calling her posh, but she found an escape in something unexpected: the school uniform. To Judi, the crisp collars and structured fabric weren't clothes. They were costumes. She wore them with a sense of drama, treating each day like a scene in a play. In 1947, during a school production of The Tempest, she played Ariel and got so swept up in the moment that she accidentally broke another student's finger during a stunt. It made her suddenly feared, then respected. She went from a bullied outsider to the girl everyone copied. At 18, Judi enrolled in York School of Art, but not because she wanted to. Her parents insisted she study set design in case acting didn't work out. She spent most classes sketching people, not sets. When her brother Jeffrey, already studying acting in London, came home for Christmas, he found hundreds of her drawings hidden under her bed. Their father found out and was furious. Judi responded by doing something unforgettable. On New Year's Eve, she burned every single sketch in their fireplace and told them she'd be an actress or die trying. Her parents didn't talk to her for weeks. In 1954, Judi entered the Central School of Speech and Drama in London. Back then, it was still inside Royal Albert Hall. The first year, students weren't even allowed to speak. They practiced breathing and movement, focusing on discipline. Judi was trained in phonetics, verse, and mime. Her voice was a problem at first. She struggled with projection and nearly failed her assessments. But with constant coaching, she improved. By her third year, she had won the school's top honors, including the Elsie Fogarty Prize. Her transformation was complete. She had gone from unsure and silent to the top graduate of her class. Right before graduation, she auditioned for the Old Vic. Director Michael Benthall took a wild risk and cast her as Ophelia in Hamlet. She wasn't even out of school yet. The theater world was stunned. Papers called her London's new Ophelia. But then the reviews came in. Critics in Liverpool tore her apart. They said she was flat, dull, forgettable. One review claimed she'd been built up too fast and needed to vanish for a few years to find herself. When the company went on tour to America, Judi wasn't included. Benthall told her plainly that someone else would be playing Ophelia now. It was her first major professional wound. But fate turned again. When her replacement dropped out, Judi was called back to perform in Paris. This time, critics saw something different. They praised her for subtlety and control, especially in the madness scenes. French papers called it the best Hamlet they'd ever seen. Judi had bounced back. Still, she never forgot those early stumbles. During her audition for that very role, one scene required her to mimic Ophelia's drowning. She used every bit of her training: breath control, physical restraint, emotional clarity. It wasn't dramatic in the usual sense, but it was deeply moving. Her co-star John Neville believed in her even when the critics didn't. He mentored her and taught her that real acting came from stillness and sincerity. At the Old Vic, she worked 12-hour days, rehearsal in the morning, performance in the evening. It was brutal, but she never missed a cue. Her London debut came in 1958, and it was just as rough as Liverpool. But that same year, she took on Catherine in Henry V and stunned audiences with an improvised line during one performance that made the crowd roar. Some hated her for it, saying she broke tradition. Others called it genius. Her weekly pay was just 8 nils, barely enough to live on. But she kept going. In 1959, during a tour in the US, she fainted on stage while playing Juliet. The nerves had caught up with her. She had been vomiting before shows and barely eating. When she collapsed in Romeo's arms, the audience thought it was part of the scene. Her co-star improvised and kept going. But backstage, it was chaos. Some wanted her replaced. Others defended her. Judi felt humiliated. She almost quit acting entirely. In 1960, she played Isabella in Measure for Measure at the Edinburgh Festival. Critics were thrilled, but behind the curtain, Judi was unraveling. She would arrive early, throw up, recite the alphabet backward, and eat 6 digestive biscuits before going on. Every single night. The other actors called her Sick Dame Judi as a joke, but she never broke down on stage. Her performances were fierce. In 1961, she shocked everyone by quitting the Old Vic. They offered her more money and leading roles, but she refused. She hated the way older actors got special treatment. The final insult came when someone called her latest performance adequate, but not exceptional. She snapped. In a meeting, she said she wouldn't be treated like a backup singer in her own career. That winter, she left to join the Royal Shakespeare Company. It was a bold move, and it cost her opportunities for years. But it also marked the moment when Judi Dench truly took control of her life as an artist. In December 1961, Judi Dench stepped onto the stage of the Royal Shakespeare Company for the first time. She was only 27. That night, playing Anya in the Cherry Orchard, she stood alongside theater giants like John Gielgud and Peggy Ashcroft. But no one expected what came next. During the final scene, when the orchard is being destroyed, Dench's quiet, trembling delivery felt like it sliced through every seat in the theater. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was a whisper that carried grief like thunder. Within days, London critics couldn't stop talking about her. They called her return to the stage unforgettable. And just like that, she was no longer the girl from the old Vic seasons. She was the one to watch. 4 months later, in April 1962, she took the stage again in Stratford-upon-Avon. This time, as Isabella in Measure for Measure. The moment she stepped into the courtroom scene and confronted Angelo, the entire room tensed. People weren't just watching, they were holding their breath. Her voice cracked, pleaded, fought. Some critics didn't know what to make of her. They said she was too raw, too emotional, too modern. But the audience felt something they hadn't felt before. Shakespeare wasn't supposed to feel this real. But with Dench, it did. Her performances that season weren't just acting. They were warning shots. She was reshaping what classical theater could be. Then came the summer of 1963, the West African tour. Dench, cast as Lady Macbeth, left England with the Nottingham Playhouse Company. The conditions were brutal. In Ghana, one night during the sleepwalking scene, the lights cut out. She kept going, performing in total darkness with only torches flickering near the stage and vultures watching from the trees. When she cried, "Out, damned spot!" a woman in the crowd shouted, "She's washing her hands and there's no basin!" It was chaotic and beautiful. When an actress playing a witch had to drop out with a toothache, a volunteer stepped in, but forgot the lines and blurted, "Wool of bat and 2 pork chops." Dench couldn't help but laugh later. But on stage, she stayed locked in. That trip changed her. She came back with stories, scars, and an iron grip on her craft. In 1964, she played Viola in Twelfth Night at Oxford Playhouse. Her turn as the clever disguised woman who bends gender roles hinted at her range. But something else was coming. In 1965, she starred in 4 in the Morning, her film debut. It was a bleak, black-and-white story set in London's darker corners. She played a woman abandoned by her alcoholic husband, left alone with a crying baby and her own silent breakdowns. The film wasn't glamorous, it wasn't loud, but it hit hard. Her performance earned her the BAFTA for Most Promising Newcomer. She was now a film actress, but that award came with a cost. Producers started offering her more roles like it. Sad, broken women. And for a while, she found herself boxed in, stuck playing versions of the same pain, while the Shakespearean leads she craved went to others. Then, in 1969, she returned to the RSC to play Portia in The Merchant of Venice. This time, everything was different. Her Portia wasn't gentle or noble. She was sharp, cold, deliberate. When she delivered the famous Quality of Mercy speech, there was no softness, just precision and power. Laurence Olivier, in the audience, leaned in and whispered approval. The production drew mixed reactions. Some loved the boldness, others didn't, but everyone agreed. Dench was back, and now she was doing things her way. She began picking TV roles over long theater runs, not because she wanted to, but because television paid better. Even giants like her needed to pay bills. It was a quiet sign that the golden age of repertory theater was slipping into the past. In 1976, She took on Lady Macbeth again, this time opposite Ian McKellen. They performed at the Other Place, a tiny venue that fit just 200 people. The stage had nothing but 12 crates in a circle. No sets, no illusions, just actors and silence. During the sleepwalking scene, Dench clawed the air so violently, McKellen flinched. He hadn't been warned about her physical intensity. One night, a priest sat in the front row holding a crucifix, convinced they were summoning real evil. They performed it 147 times. It became legend. Then came 1979. ITV adapted the production for television. Dench's screams in that same scene, now recorded in close-up, were so raw that the sound team caught her voice shaking as if she were truly losing her mind. She later admitted the role gave her real nightmares. They filmed it in 14 days, and the $250,000 budget paid off with BAFTA nominations and critical awe. McKellen said it still haunted him. That same year, in The Comedy of Errors, Dench got to laugh again. This time it was musical, set in a sunny Mediterranean town. She played Adriana. During filming, she slapped her co-star so hard it left a mark that makeup couldn't hide. They had to shoot it again, and again. The production became a hit, running for 156 shows before its TV broadcast in 1978. It showed audiences and casting directors that Dench wasn't just tragedy and torment. She could do comedy with perfect timing. In Langrish Go Down, she played Imogen Langrishe, a reclusive woman in rural Ireland. Shot in 1978, the story was full of loneliness and longing. It was filmed quietly over 6 weeks, but things weren't smooth. During a particularly emotional scene, Dench broke down on set. The role was so isolating it bled into her own mood. The film was banned in Ireland for 36 years because of nudity, but by the time it finally aired there in 2014, Dench had long moved on. Still, people remembered it. The pain in her eyes, the stillness. In 1981, she returned to the cherry orchard, but now she was Madame Ranevskaya, the woman losing everything. During the estate auction scene, she insisted on wearing the same dress throughout the act, arguing her character wouldn't change clothes while her life crumbled. She improvised small gestures, like staring at rooms that had been emptied, and those became the production's most haunting moments. In 1981, something quietly magical unfolded on British television. A Fine Romance began airing, a sitcom that didn't shout for attention, but instead won hearts through quiet chemistry. Judi Dench and her real-life husband, Michael Williams, played Laura and Mike, an unlikely pair stumbling through middle-aged romance. It wasn't just acting. The warmth on screen came from their real 30-year marriage. Judi played the perfectionist translator, Michael the relaxed gardener. He used to say he wasn't intimidated by her fame, just amused by it. And maybe that's why it worked so well. The audience didn't feel like they were watching a show. They felt like they were watching two people genuinely trying to figure each other out. She won 2 BAFTAs for the role, once in '82 and again in '85. Only a handful of actors ever pulled that off for the same role. Then came a sharp turn. In 1984, Judi took on a very different character in A Passage to India. The film was huge, shot entirely on location, with a budget over $16 million and the kind of pressure only David Lean could create after a 14-year break. Judi played Miss Quested, a naive British woman whose false accusation shakes up everything. That one performance in the Marabar Caves scene earned her an Academy nomination. Critics said it was filled with naive horror, and they weren't wrong. It was raw, uncomfortable, and necessary. The whole film was like a confrontation with the ghosts of colonialism, and Judi's role was right at the center. Only a year later, she switched gears again in A Room with a View. Here, she wasn't haunted or heartbroken. She was funny. She played Charlotte Bartlett, a nosy chaperone who kept interfering in young Lucy Honeychurch's life. Everything she did, every awkward pause, every gasp, was timed like a metronome. It was hilarious, and people loved it. The film itself became a landmark, earning 8 Oscar nominations and winning 3. Dench won the BAFTA for Best Supporting Actress. The whole thing helped launch Helena Bonham Carter's career and put Merchant Ivory Productions on the map for period dramas done right. 3 years later, in 1987, Judi went back to the stage for one of the boldest Shakespeare productions in recent memory. She played Cleopatra opposite Anthony Hopkins in a National Theatre production that broke every rule. She described her version of Cleopatra as a menopausal dwarf. It was funny, sharp, strategic, and it worked. The Guardian said it was the smartest Shakespeare they'd heard in years. There were even live snakes on stage. One slipped out of her wig during a curtain call. She was so shocked, she lost her voice for 2 days. Then came Henry V in 1989. Kenneth Branagh was just 28 when he directed and starred in it, and Judi played Mistress Quickly. Her big monologue about Falstaff's death had to be shot multiple times, not because she got it wrong, but because of tech issues. She laughed at Branagh's grand entrance as Henry told him, "Who do you think you are?" He laughed back and said, "It's not called Mistress Quickly the Fourth." That's the kind of energy they had on set. The movie was gritty, real, and changed how Shakespeare looked on screen. Branagh got a Best Director nomination, and the film won an Oscar for costumes. Then, in 1995, everything changed. Judi stepped into the Bond universe. She became M. It was groundbreaking. She was the first woman in the role, inspired by the real-life MI5 chief Stella Remington. She called Bond a sexist, misogynist dinosaur in her very first scene. It hit hard. She didn't blink. Pierce Brosnan said he was nervous that day, and so was she. But on screen, she looked like she'd been running MI6 for years. That one moment rewrote the rules of Bond forever. 2 years later, she starred in Mrs. Brown, playing Queen Victoria. It was a hit, and she won a Golden Globe. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. Her husband Michael was sick, though they didn't know it yet. By 1999, his lung cancer had worsened, and Judi had to leave a Broadway show to be with him. In interviews, she was open about it. She didn't want to disappoint audiences, but she couldn't perform while he was dying. He passed away in 2001. Looking back, people realized she was playing deep grief on screen while carrying her own real tragedy. Then came Shakespeare in Love. Just 8 minutes of screen time as Queen Elizabeth I, and she walked away with an Oscar. That win came with controversy. Harvey Weinstein, who produced the film, reportedly spent $5 million on the Oscar campaign. Double or even triple what most studios spent. Parties, handshakes, whispered votes. People still talk about it as one of the dirtiest Oscar campaigns ever. But whatever the politics, Judi's performance stuck. Sharp, brief, unforgettable. In 1997's Tomorrow Never Dies, her second Bond film, she had more room to breathe. 14 days of filming instead of just 3. She joked about Bond's old flames, issued orders like a boss, and started carving out a more strategic version of EE-8-E-E-M. That version stuck. She would go on to define the role for 2 decades across 7 films. But something else was quietly happening. In 1999, during a Royal Shakespeare Company performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, she played Titania with all the energy she had. But her vision was already fading. Age-related macular degeneration had begun to set in. At first, she just needed the font size on her scripts enlarged. By 2012, she couldn't read them at all. and needed someone to read the lines to her. By 2023, she admitted she needed a machine to help her memorize lines by describing where they appeared on the page. Still, she didn't stop. In 2000, Judi Dench took on the role of Armand Voisin in Chocolate. And something unexpected happened. She didn't just act like someone who loved chocolate, she became her. Dench joked she was doing method eating, and by the end of the 4-month shoot in a quiet French village, she had gained about 10 pounds. The director encouraged everyone to actually eat the chocolate, and Dench took it to heart. Between scenes, she was baking for the cast, turning her trailer into a little bakery. Johnny Depp and Juliette Binoche became regulars. It was all fun, and Dench laughed that gaining weight was just research. But the very next year brought something heavier. In Iris, she played the brilliant author Iris Murdoch as her mind faded into Alzheimer's. It wasn't just hard to watch, it was hard to film. After intense scenes where Iris lost track of herself, Dench would break down. She'd sometimes cry alone in her dressing room for 30 minutes before she could return. She had studied real patience before filming, and that realism stuck to her like fog. One co-star said she even forgot names on set, not out of rudeness, but because she was living in Iris's head. The result was so powerful, it won her a BAFTA. Then came Notes on a Scandal in 2006, and it stirred a different kind of emotion. Controversy. Dench played Barbara, a teacher obsessively fixated on a younger female colleague. Some said it was bold, others called it harmful. Protests erupted. Advocacy groups called it a throwback to older, damaging stereotypes. Dench didn't flinch. She defended Barbara as complicated, not evil. But the hate mail kept coming. Still, her performance left critics stunned. One outlet said she deserved the Oscar more than Helen Mirren that year. That same year, Dench filmed Casino Royale, where she returned as M opposite Daniel Craig's Bond. During one rehearsal, she suddenly barked, "You've got a bloody cheek," completely unscripted. It wasn't in the script, but it stayed in the movie. The line hit so hard they used it in marketing. Turns out, she was channeling how she scolded her real-life grandson. Craig was so caught off guard that his stunned face in the movie was genuine. In 2008's Quantum of Solace, Dench took realism to another level. Her role involved high-stakes chase scenes, helicopters, explosions. Most actors would have worn ear protection or relied on earpieces. Not Dench. She said M wouldn't wear earplugs in a crisis, so neither would she. She even turned down communication earpieces to stay in character. By the end of production, she had real hearing damage in one ear. Insurance didn't want to cover it, but she never complained. Critics said her scenes were the best part of a weaker Bond film. When she joined My Week with Marilyn in 2011, her role as Dame Sybil Thorndike had a strange behind-the-scenes twist. Dench and Michelle Williams never shot a single scene together in real life. Dench filmed her parts 2 weeks before the main shoot began. In one scene, Williams's hand reaches into frame to greet Dench, but it was faked. The timing added more emotion because the film wrapped just before the anniversary of Heath Ledger's death, Williams's former partner. It was a movie filled with loss, on screen and off. In Skyfall, Dench's character M dies, and in real life, she was facing her own crisis. By 2012, Dench had developed age-related macular degeneration. She couldn't read scripts anymore. Friends had to read her lines out loud like bedtime stories. Her vision changed with the light. On sunny days, she could do crosswords, but if clouds rolled in, everything vanished. Her eyesight was slipping just as her character was reaching her end, making it all feel painfully real. A year later, in Philomena, she played a nun connected to the dark legacy of Ireland's Magdalen laundries. The film showed personal pain, but critics said it didn't go far enough. They accused it of downplaying the horrors: girls as young as 9 forced to work, mass graves uncovered, government complicity. Dench's performance was heartbreaking, but many Irish viewers wanted more fury, more truth. The debate raged even as she collected another Oscar nod. In Spectre, M appears again, but this time, it's a video message from beyond the grave. Dench wasn't just playing a ghost on screen. Her vision had worsened so much, she often needed someone to point her in the right direction during filming. Still, she delivered the scene flawlessly. Some fans thought the ghostly video was CGI. It wasn't. It was just clever camera work, and the effect was haunting. After filming All Is True, Dench did something even bolder. On her 81st birthday, she got her first tattoo. Her daughter gifted it to her, Carpe Diem, inked on her wrist. At first, her co-stars joked it said, "Fish of the Day," in Latin, but it was her message to the world. Even with vision loss, even with age creeping in, she refused to slow down. It wasn't even her first body joke. Years earlier, she'd painted Harvey Weinstein's name on her backside as a prank. This time, though, the ink was real. Her performance in Belfast at 87 shocked everyone. She played a loving grandmother during the chaos of 1969 Northern Ireland. Her vision was nearly gone, and she relied on sound cues to navigate the set. But she still improvised lines in perfect Belfast slang. The film earned 7 Oscar nominations. Dench got one of them. The grief she carries from losing her husband, Michael Williams, never left her. He died in 2001 from lung cancer. She still wears his wedding ring. She still talks to him every day. In one interview, she said, "Grief feels like suddenly falling into a hole you didn't see coming." They had been married since 1971, and she never remarried. In 2022, Dench appeared in Spirited with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. But by then, reading a script was impossible. She had to memorize everything by sound. She used a machine that told her where each line was on the page. She could still recall entire Shakespeare plays from memory, but new material took work. That Christmas film might have been her last. In October 2024, she became the official patron of the Yorkshire Macular Degeneration Fund. She said openly, "I can't see on set anymore." But she also said she had no plans to stop painting or acting. In Yorkshire, where she was born, the condition affects more people than anywhere else in England. Her support meant everything. When she turned 90, she joked she was actually 29. She painted on Tuesdays. She was learning pottery. She played bananagrams like a pro. Even though she needed help walking into events, she filled her week with projects. Her next one is a book, Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent, where she'll share stories from every role she ever played. The rehearsals, the mishaps, the truth behind the curtains. It's her way of showing that even if her eyes are fading, her memory is still sharp, and her spirit unshaken.